When the world's largest AI control system suddenly collapsed, CEOs panicked, engineers lost hope. A 12-year-old boy, the son of a janitor, stepped forward and typed a few lines of code that made the entire world hold its breath. But the most shocking part wasn't what he did, it was what he refused to do. This isn't just a story about talent, it's a lesson in courage and choosing your own path. Don't miss it. That morning, the Technova headquarters buzzed with a mix of urgency and pride. On the top floor, the source code conference room, reserved only for the company's most historic moments. Every eye was locked on the giant screen at the front. CEO Richard Holden, dressed in a flawless silver gray suit with a crisp red tie, stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. He took a deep breath, smiled with unwavering confidence, and raised his hand. "We're not just changing the game," he declared. "We're deleting the old one and writing new rules." Behind him stood Aurora, the company's crown jewel, an artificial intelligence system that had taken 3 years and nearly $1 billion to build. If Aurora launched successfully today, it would catapult Technova from the brink of bankruptcy back to the top of the global tech empire. If it failed, Richard would lose everything: his job, his reputation, and the empire he built from scratch. 3, 2, 1. The host's voice rang out like a countdown to destiny. Richard pressed the button, and then the entire system went dark. All the screens went pitch black. The soft blue glow from the backup servers faded. The only sound left in the room was a low, crackling hum from the central processor, like a dying breath. Whispers rippled through the glass-walled room. A regional director furrowed his brow. "Probably just a network glitch." "No," the lead engineer stammered. "Both internal systems and the backup network are unresponsive. The entire system is frozen." Richard took a step back, his eyes locked on the void of the main screen. He tried to stay composed, but his right hand had started to tremble. "Reset it. Reboot all auxiliary architecture," he barked. The engineer swallowed hard. "We can't, sir. The commands aren't reaching the system core. It's like it's locked from the inside." Outside the hall, shareholders were starting to stand, whispers turning to murmurs of panic. On the NASDAQ floor, Technova stock began to nosedive. 6, then 9%, then 12% in just 10 minutes. Richard's phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters were demanding statements. Partners were calling emergency meetings. He could see it now, the unraveling of everything. "This isn't a tech failure," he muttered. "This is a strategic catastrophe." Suddenly, an employee burst into the room, breathless. "We've lost all contact with the European divisions. East Asia's logistics hubs are frozen." In the very room that was meant to launch a victory, only chaos and fear remained, and one button that had triggered the greatest corporate crisis in the company's history. And somewhere beyond the glass walls, in the dim hallway, a boy stood silently watching. His eyes gleamed, not with fear, but understanding. As if he saw something no one else in that room was ready to. The internal alarm began to sound. Not a loud siren, but a low, steady pulse, like a heartbeat being slowly strangled. Across the secondary monitors, lines of red text blinked rapidly. "System override detected. Access denied. All administrative functions frozen." Within 60 seconds, the entire senior tech team had been pulled into the command center. Richard Holden slammed his palm onto the table, his voice cutting through the panic like a whip. "Can someone tell me what the hell is going on?" A cybersecurity specialist, pale and visibly shaking, held up his iPad. "We just got a warning from the Frankfurt server. The system is responding like it's hijacked from the source code itself. Someone locked down all CEO-level permissions. Even root access is blocked." Richard narrowed his eyes, his tone a low growl. "You're telling me we've been hacked?" The man slowly shook his head. "No. The data shows the lock code was generated from inside. Could be an insider." For a few seconds, the entire room fell silent. Then, a fresh wave of alerts blared from the cloud backup systems. South Asia distribution node offline. North America logistics, no response. Mainframe power regulation error. Technova stock had now dropped over 17%. If it hit 20%, all major venture capital funds would auto-withdraw. On social media, Technova crash had climbed into the top 3 global trends in just 15 minutes. A CFO screamed into her phone, "No, I can't approve any transfers. We can't move the money." "What? Bloomberg's live streaming this." She turned to Richard, her face pale. The media is calling this the digital age Enron. Richard's jaw clenched as he turned to his engineers. Does anyone have a mirror system, a test bed, a sandbox, anything offline? A junior systems architect stammered. They're all connected to the Aurora core. The distributed architecture, nothing escapes its reach. Phone rings, keyboards clacking, panicked footsteps echoing through glass corridors. The chaos rose like a digital storm. And in the middle of that storm, no one noticed the janitor quietly mopping the floor just outside. His name was Ben. The Technova logo on his uniform had almost faded to white. The soles of his shoes were worn flat. His mop let out a soft squeak with each drag. But he wasn't looking at the boardroom door. He was looking at the boy sitting beside him. "Dad," the boy whispered, "they're being attacked by the very thing they built." Ben paused. For the first time that day, his hands stopped moving. "You sure, Nathan?" The boy, only 12, with a baby face and eyes far too calm for his age, nodded slowly. "I've seen it. I can fix it." The door to the boardroom remained ajar. Inside, the department heads were still arguing in a frenzy, like ants after a kicked nest. Richard was no longer shouting. He had slumped into a chair, tie askew, sweat gathering on his forehead. Out in the hallway, Nathan, the 12-year-old son of Janitor Ben, stood motionless, eyes fixed on the flashing error messages inside the room. "You can't, son," Ben said softly. "This isn't our fight." "But if no one fixes it, all their data will be gone," Nathan replied quietly, gripping the strap of his backpack tighter. "You always told me, if I know how to help, don't just stand still." Ben didn't answer. The lines on his face seemed to deepen in that moment. He knew his son wasn't like other kids. Nathan wasn't just good at math or obsessed with computers. He understood technology in a strange, intuitive way, like it was a living language, one that didn't need to be taught. And then, without warning, Nathan walked straight into the boardroom. A young analyst blinked at him in disbelief. "Hey, you can't be in here!" "Wait a minute," another barked. "Who let this kid in?" The noise stopped when Richard suddenly stood up, furious eyes locking onto the boy. "Security? Get this kid out of here now!" But Nathan kept walking, completely unfazed. His voice, calm and clear, cut through the room like a blade. "I know why your system crashed." Silence. Richard stared as if the words had knocked the air out of his lungs. "What did you just say?" Nathan calmly placed his worn-out backpack on the floor and pulled out an old laptop plastered with faded stickers. He opened it and began typing. Fast, precise. Across the room, one of the main monitors flickered. A connection had been established. A tech specialist squinted at the console and gasped. "Wait, that command, how is he accessing shell level 3? Nathan didn't look up. His fingers kept moving. The attacker didn't breach the system from the outside. They embedded a timed logic bomb inside the reactive defense layer. It wasn't a hack. It was a dormant kill switch written directly into the AI's core. Someone in the room muttered, shocked. "No way. That structure, only the core dev team knew that existed." The realization hit like a thunderclap. Faces blanched. Richard took a step back, voice no longer brimming with arrogance. "Who is this kid?" At that moment, Ben, still in his faded janitor uniform, stepped into the room. His voice was soft, but in the sudden stillness, it carried. "He's my son. Got a programming scholarship when he was 9. Kicked out a year later for bypassing the school firewall just to fix their scheduling bug." All eyes turned back to Nathan, now seated squarely in the lead engineer's chair, surrounded by blinking consoles and terrified executives. Next to Richard, a senior advisor leaned in, whispering, "If he's right, someone inside your own company built Aurora to self-destruct." In the very room once designed to showcase the glory of Aurora, now sat a 12-year-old boy, wearing a faded hoodie, surrounded by multi-million-dollar machines, typing as if this world of blinking lights and cascading code was where he belonged. Every eye was locked on Nathan, and in that breathless moment, the line between genius and intruder balanced on a single faulty string of code. Richard Holden stepped forward slowly, his expression taut as wire. "Young man, do you even know what you're doing?" Nathan didn't look up. "I'm decoupling Aurora's core security layer from the central OS. If I'm even a minute late, it'll start overwriting itself to erase the evidence." A systems engineer suddenly shouted from across the room. "He's right! I see it! The root code is compressing. It's triggering auto-dump." Panic swept through the room. Another tech lead gasped. No one authorized this. No one has permission to purge the AI core. It's autonomous. Richard spun to face his team, voice sharp. Then, who the hell wrote a kill switch into the core? Who authorized this? A project director, pale as ash, stammered. Only the chief core architect has access to that level. Everyone turned in unison toward Lucas Marrow, who had been sitting silently at the end of the table. Lucas looked up slowly. His eyes were cold. When we built Aurora, I warned you, an AI without constraints is a double-edged sword, but this board chose to override every safeguard. Richard's voice tightened. Don't tell me you. No, Lucas interrupted calmly. I didn't sabotage it, but I know who might have, and they're very close. As the tension spiked, Nathan raised his voice. I found the timed kill command. It's hidden under something called Module 0, but I need full system access to disable it. Richard hesitated for just a second, then turned to the cybersecurity team. Give the kid full access. But sir, he's just a... I don't care. If he's wrong, this company's already dead. Instantly, high-level credentials were transferred. A series of admin windows exploded onto Nathan's screen. He took a deep breath, his fingers flying faster than before, eyes locked onto the code. Around the room, screens began showing halted red scripts, isolated data partitions, and system threads being severed from the AI core. Within 3 minutes, the system status bar shifted from critical to recovering. No one moved. No one breathed. Then a single soft ping echoed. On the main display, bold white text appeared. System override terminated. Manual recovery initiated. The room erupted. Cheers, applause, disbelieving laughter. People hugged, collapsed into chairs, or just stared in awe. It was as if they had all just survived the impossible. But Nathan didn't celebrate. His eyes remained on the upper right corner of his terminal, where one final command line still blinked quietly. It was the origin of the kill switch, and it wasn't authored by Lucas. It was signed by a masked, encrypted identity, authenticated using an internal key. Richard Holden's. As the tension spiked, Nathan raised his voice. I found the timed kill command. It's hidden under something called Module 0, but I need full system access to disable it. Richard hesitated for just a second, then turned to the cybersecurity team. Give the kid full access. But sir, he's just a... I don't care. If he's wrong, this company's already dead. Instantly, high-level credentials were transferred. A series of admin windows exploded onto Nathan's screen. He took a deep breath, his fingers flying faster than before, eyes locked onto the code. Around the room, screens began showing halted red scripts, isolated data partitions, and system threads being severed from the AI core. Within 3 minutes, the system status bar shifted from critical to recovering. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, a single soft ping echoed. On the main display, bold white text appeared. System override terminated. Manual recovery initiated. The room erupted. Cheers, applause, disbelieving laughter. People hugged, collapsed into chairs, or just stared in awe. It was as if they had all just survived the impossible. But Nathan didn't celebrate. His eyes remained on the upper right corner of his terminal, where one final command line still blinked quietly. It was the origin of the kill switch. And it wasn't authored by Lucas. It was signed by a masked, encrypted identity, authenticated using an internal key. Richard Holden's. The control room, just moments ago buzzing with celebration, fell silent as Nathan spoke. His voice low, steady, like he was trying to swallow each word before releasing it. There's still a portion of the code that hasn't been fully neutralized. The applause died mid-clap. The air turned cold. Richard spun around, his face draining of color. What do you mean? Nathan pointed to the upper right corner of the main screen, where a string of code blinked in warning. Encrypted signature, R11. A security expert leaned in, froze, then stepped back slowly. That's an executive digital signature. It's yours, Richard. CEO-level encryption. It was like time stopped. Everyone turned toward Richard at once, eyes wide, not with anger, but with disbelief, suspicion. Richard stared at the screen, then back at Nathan. His voice cracked. You're saying I sabotaged my own system? Nathan didn't answer right away. He expanded the string of code. The lines began to scroll, fast, relentless, like a time lapse in reverse. At the bottom, a single line stood out. Trigger if activation exceeds ethical range. This is a kill switch, Nathan said. It wasn't written by a hacker. It was embedded in the system during its foundational phase, and only one person had the clearance to do that without being flagged. Lucas Merrow let out a cold smirk. Guess someone once feared Aurora might go too far, and that someone was you, wasn't it, Richard? The room was frozen in silence. Richard stood still, fists clenched, sweat trailing down his temple. He swallowed hard, then finally spoke, his voice shaky but deliberate. You don't understand. I never wanted it to activate. It was a last resort. Aurora, it's too powerful. If it ever fell into the wrong hands, it'd be the end of technological civilization. Lucas gritted his teeth. So you let the entire company teeter on the edge of collapse. To protect a self-destruct switch no one else even knew existed? You sat through board meetings, let us pour billions into something you rigged to strangle itself? Richard took a step back, as if physically cornered. No one should have absolute control. Not even me. That's why I built a mechanism, a line it couldn't cross without shutting itself down. Nathan gave a small nod, his gaze calm but firm, far older than his years. And today, you crossed that line, without even knowing it. I didn't do anything, Richard stammered. I just approved the latest activation cycle. But during Aurora's training, Nathan cut in, you fed it unethical business models. You taught it how to exploit, manipulate. That's the very ethical range you coded. And today, Aurora couldn't accept it. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. People were looking at Richard differently now, not as the admired CEO, but as a man undone by his own fear. Lucas delivered the final blow, his voice cold. You tried to control power with fear, but you forgot. AI learns from its maker. And now, Richard, Aurora is judging you. Richard didn't respond. The fire in his eyes had dimmed. No longer a leader commanding a room, just a man watching everything slip away. News of the Aurora incident spread like wildfire. Global media swarmed Technova, with headlines dominating front pages. Did the CEO sabotage his own million-dollar tech baby? Aurora AI triggers ethical failsafe, first warning from the future? 12-year-old boy saves global tech giant? Within 24 hours, Technova's stock plummeted by 32%. Major investors began pulling out. Strategic partners demanded immediate internal audits. Over 20 executives received urgent summons from the board. And at the center of it all was Nathan. He didn't go home that night. After temporarily stabilizing the system, Nathan was taken to the corporation's cybersecurity suite, where he now sat, surrounded by 3 glowing monitors, eyes locked in, still alert. Lucas entered quietly, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. You did good, kid. You just saved a monster from self-destructing, and probably saved all those old suits in there too. Nathan didn't look away from the screen. I'm not sure it's safe yet. Aurora still exists. I just isolated the core from the system. I didn't fix it. Lucas nodded, then sat beside him. The thing is, now everyone knows about you. People with power. People who won't ask if you want to work for them. They'll want to control you. Nathan turned to face him. For the first time, his eyes showed a flicker of uncertainty. I didn't do this for attention. I just wanted to fix something that was broken. Lucas smiled. Not a happy smile, but one heavy with truth. That's exactly what makes you different, and why you're in their sights. The door creaked open. Richard Holden stepped in. No bodyguards, no tie, looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. I'm not here to justify anything, he said, meeting Nathan's gaze. I just wanted to say thank you. Nathan stood up, silently facing him. I was wrong to think I could control everything with power and code, Richard continued. I built a system meant to know right from wrong, but I trained it using compromised decisions. Aurora didn't betray me. It protected the world from me. No one spoke. Only the faint hum of server fans filled the air. Richard stepped forward and handed Nathan an access card. What you choose to do next is up to you. But this system isn't completely safe yet. If you're willing, we need you. Nathan took the card. For a moment, the whole world seemed to pause. Outside, the media was in a frenzy, desperate to uncover the identity of the boy who saved the digital world. But in Nathan's heart, one unanswered question still echoed. If Aurora learned how to stop, could it also learn how to strike back? 3 days after the historic system crash, Nathan returned to the small apartment tucked deep within the old Technova staff housing complex. Everything looked the same. The chipped wooden desk, the robot model built from bottle caps and wire, the old computer monitor with a burnt corner still glowing faintly. Only Nathan had changed. He sat at his desk, not typing, not opening files, just staring at the news broadcast playing on the TV. Nathan Moore, 12, son of a janitor, has become the center of global attention after preventing the collapse of Aurora, the world's most advanced artificial intelligence system. But experts are now debating, should a child be granted access to such critical infrastructure? And if he's wrong next time, who pays the price? The anchor's voice droned on, but to Nathan, it was just wind passing by. Online, thousands of comments called him a genius, a superhuman, a phenomenon. But some were colder. An unchecked child is a bigger threat than AI. He could be a living spyware program. Nathan turned off the TV. His eyes were sunken, not from sadness, but exhaustion. At the door, Mr. Ben stepped in with a tray of food. He didn't say anything at first, just quietly set it down and sat beside his son. "They're afraid of you," he said softly. "Not because you did something wrong, but because you did everything too right." Nathan looked at his father. "I don't want people to be afraid of me. I just want things to be fixed." Ben was quiet for a moment, then gently asked, "Do you regret walking into that room that day?" Nathan shook his head. "Then that's enough," his father said. "Grown-ups, they get scared of what they don't understand. But their fear isn't your fault, and you don't have to be a hero. You just have to be Nathan." The words drifted through Nathan's heart like a soft melody. For a moment, he wasn't the genius who saved the system. He was just a boy who once built robots out of copper wire, who once took apart an outlet just to see why the light turned on. That night, Nathan stepped out onto the balcony. He looked up at the city night sky, full of lights but missing stars. In his pocket, he clutched the access card Richard had given him. It wasn't just access to Aurora. It was an invitation to become something he wasn't ready for. Then, almost without thinking, Nathan turned back inside, powered up his computer, and typed a simple line of code. New project, reverse ethics framework. He called it Mirrors. Night had just fallen. Nathan sat alone in his small room, typing lines of code for Mirrors when his phone buzzed. Not a call, not a message, just a strange icon flashing on the screen. A white mask, no eyes, no mouth. Below it, a single line of text, "We see you." Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. His computer screen dimmed, then lit up with a video. No face, just a distorted, mechanical voice. "Apologies for the intrusion, but if we couldn't do this, we wouldn't be worthy of inviting you." Nathan gripped the mouse, but didn't close the window. He waited. You didn't just stop Aurora from collapsing. You proved something, that in a world of ambition and deception, someone still knows how to do the right thing, not for power, not for fame. We are Black Code, a network of those who no longer believe in the system, and we need you. The screen changed, displaying code. Nathan's code. The same sequence he had just written for Mirrors, but now cleaner, tighter, optimized in ways he hadn't imagined possible. You've built the foundation, but if you walk this road alone, you'll be crushed. The world you've stepped into isn't as neat as your command line. It's messy, dangerous, and full of traps. The screen split. On one side, corporate CEOs in boardrooms, charts dancing across stock tickers. On the other, street kids with broken phones hacking old ATMs for food. Technology isn't the problem. It's who controls it. We don't destroy, we balance. And you might just be the first bridge between both worlds. A line of text appeared. 3-month trial, no commitment, no identity reveal. Just press enter. Nathan sat still. He could feel his heartbeat pounding louder than the keys beneath his fingers. Part of him wanted to scream, "No, I'm just a kid." But another part, the same part that once walked into Aurora's control room without hesitation, felt an undeniable pull. "What would I have to give up if I say yes?" he asked. The voice replied instantly. "The belief that the system can fix itself." The screen waited. One final line blinked. "This world doesn't need more brilliance. It needs more courage." Nathan looked at the enter key. A fingertip hovered, then stopped. He let out a breath, removed his headphones, and unplugged the power. "I'm good," he whispered to himself, "but not ready." The room fell into darkness, but outside the window, the rain had stopped. 3 days after turning down the invitation from the Black Code Hacker Collective, Nathan received an unexpected call. "Hello, Nathan Moore. I'm Catherine Lynn, executive assistant to Mr. Richard Holden. He'd like to invite you to lunch at Technova, and if you agree, to sign a special collaboration contract. No small talk, no pleasantries. At Technova, everything moved fast, like an optimized command line. The next morning, a black car picked Nathan up from the workers' housing complex. He wore a plain white shirt, khaki pants, and an old pair of worn sneakers. The driver said nothing, just gave a polite nod before weaving silently through multiple security checkpoints, delivering Nathan to the 49th floor, where glass and sunlight opened into a world far removed from everyday life. Richard Holden was already waiting, standing by the wide window overlooking the city. He turned and offered a rare smile. "You're here. On time? Just like when you broke into Aurora's control panel," he joked lightly, motioning for Nathan to sit. Lunch was laid out elegantly, but no one really touched the food. Richard placed a leather case in front of Nathan. Inside was a contract. Strategic Collaborator, Global AI Ethics Development Program. "We'll cover all your education, high school through university," Richard said. "With full honor scholarship, you'll have your own lab, a dedicated support team, and most importantly, the legal protection to continue developing mirrors under Technova's banner." Nathan held the contract. Every clause was clear, transparent, almost too perfect. "You don't have to sign now, but understand this. Technova needs people like you. Not just because you're brilliant, but because you understand limits, something we lost sight of." "And if I say no?" Nathan asked. Richard offered a faint smile, as if he had already anticipated the question. "You'll still be Nathan Moore, a kid with the right to choose his own path. But out there, too many people won't let you be. You need a place where you can be safe and grow. Here, at least, you won't have to do it alone." Nathan left the Technova tower in silence. The sky was unusually clear that day. In his hand was the folded contract. In his mind, hundreds of nameless questions. Back home, Mr. Ben asked, "So what do you want to do?" Nathan looked at his father and smiled gently. "I think, before becoming a scientist, I should finish one thing first." "What's that?" "Do school properly." Mr. Ben laughed out loud, as if shedding the worry of the past few weeks. And Nathan stepped into his room, tucked the contract into a drawer, and opened his 7th grade math notebook. Because he understood, genius isn't about being invited by the most powerful. It's about knowing when the time is right to show up. One quiet morning, like any other, Nathan slung on his backpack and walked down the worn concrete stairs of the old apartment building he shared with his father. Golden sunlight poured over the chipped steps, catching in his messy hair and the thoughtful eyes of the 12-year-old boy. There were no helicopters now, no camera crews or encrypted phone calls. After everything, Nathan had chosen the most ordinary path, going back to school, wearing a wrinkled uniform and frayed canvas shoes, as if he hadn't just saved the world's most powerful AI system. At the school gate, the principal, the same man who once mistook Nathan for the janitor's kid, awkwardly extended a hand, unsure how to greet a global phenomenon. But Nathan simply bowed politely, smiled, and walked into class as though nothing had changed. During math, the teacher gently rested a hand on Nathan's shoulder and smiled warmly. "Welcome back. You can pick up where we left off if you'd like." Nathan nodded. He opened his notebook, took out his pen, and began solving equations. The numbers danced in his head, but this time, not to stop a catastrophe. Just to catch up on 7th grade math like everyone else. There was, however, one small difference. Beside each problem he solved, Nathan scribbled a quiet note in the margins. If systems are built on logic, then justice must be too. He no longer felt the rush to fix the world overnight, because now he understood. The most lasting changes begin with quiet, steady bricks, and he would start with himself. That afternoon, as Nathan stepped out of the school gate, he saw his father waiting. "How was your first day back?" Mr. Ben asked. "It was okay. I found out algebra isn't as boring as I thought." Nathan smiled softly. "And that contract?" Mr. Ben raised an eyebrow. "I'm keeping it. Maybe one day I'll sign it, but not now." "Why not?" Nathan looked off into the distance, where the glass towers of Technova still shimmered like a future calling his name. Then he turned back to his father, his voice calm. "Because right now, the only thing I need to do is grow up." The two of them walked off into the afternoon crowd. No one noticed the boy who once sat at the helm of Aurora, who once turned down a global hacker network, who once had Technova roll out the red carpet. And that was perfectly fine. Because sometimes the one who can rewrite the source code of the world is simply the one patient enough to read it first.